Alright, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my fight prediction for the co-main event at UFC 311 between Merab and Umar. So I'm just going to get this out the way. I apologize for anybody that's looking for me to say their last names. I'm not the best at saying Merab's last name. And I'm damn sure not the best at saying Umar's last name. So with all due respect, I'm not a casual, but I just cannot pronounce their last names the right way. So I'm going to skip that in this segment. But Merab will be making his first UFC bantamweight title defense against Umar in the co-main event slot of UFC 311. So big-time fight that has a big-time feel and is going to take place on a big-time atmosphere in the bantamweight division with Merab defending the title against Umar. Now, storylines heading into this fight. Is Merab ready to defend his bantamweight title for the first time in his UFC career? Now, Merab won the bantamweight title by dominating fashion, taking the title from Sean O'Malley in the main event slot of UFC 306 towards the end part of 2024. He did it in dominating fashion. To win the title, he out-wrestled Sean O'Malley, breaking Sean O'Malley's will. Merab just had his way of having ground control, out-wrestling him, frustrating him. I'm going to get more into that, but Merab just had his way against Sean O'Malley, who at the time was a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC, and took the title away from him from ease. But when I think back at that fight, I think it's very diabolical that two judges scored the fight 48-47 in favor of Merab. So very diabolical stuff for Merab to win the title in the first place at UFC 306. Now, next storyline is Umar ready for this big-time moment? Now, Umar has been pretty fun to watch as he's climbed up the bantamweight division. He's climbed up the rankings and been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Khabib, one of the most legendary and most dominant champions in UFC history, Khabib being a former lightweight champion, taking that division by storm, is actually the cousin of Umar. So he's done a great job grooming up his cousin and helping him get to the point of being a tremendous fighter that he is in the UFC today. So we're going to see if Umar is ready for his first title opportunity in a big-time stage on a big-time moment in the co-main event slot of UFC 311. So tail of the tape for this fight, starting off with the challenger. Umar is 18-0. He has 2 victories come away of knockouts, 7 submission victories. Currently the second ranked contender at the bantamweight division. Currently stands at 5'8" and has a reach advantage of 69 inches. Then I'm looking at the champion, Merab. Merab is 18-4, 18 victories, 4 losses to his resume. He has 3 victories come away of knockout, 1 submission victory. Currently the reigning defending bantamweight champion. Currently stands at 5'6" and has a reach advantage of 68 inches. So the height and the reach advantage goes in favor of Umar against the champion Merab. We're going to see if the height and the reach plays in the factor for the challenger Umar heading into this fight. So these are the following game plans that I have for these respective fighters to follow if they want to walk out of UFC 311 with the coveted bantamweight title. Starting off with the challenger Umar. Now, I think Umar's going to have to land some takedowns and out-wrestle Merab. Now, Khabib is going to be in his corner. I keep touching base on how Khabib is the cousin of Umar, obviously. But Khabib, as a trainer, has done some great stuff as a trainer. He's going to be out there in the corner of Umar for this big championship fight. And when Khabib works with these other respective fighters, their wrestling style and their wrestling pedigree just gets tremendously better, especially in the grappling game, especially in the takedown department. Look at what Khabib has done helping other fighters shine in the wrestling department. Look at Islam Makhachev, a great grappler, one of the greatest grapplers that the UFC has to offer on their roster today. Look at how Bilal Muhammad out-wrestled and dominated Leon Edwards in the summer to become the welterweight champion. Khabib was in the corner of those 2 respective fighters as they continue to get better in the wrestling game. So I think it's going to be important for Umar, the challenger, to smother Merab on the ground, not letting him breathe, not letting him move around, not letting him try to get an advantage on the ground whatsoever, and gain ground control. If he could do that on the ground and control the pace of the fight on the ground by him, on the ground, gaining ground control, I think that could go a big way for Umar to defeat Merab in this fight. Now, next, I think the challenger's got to control the pace of the fight. Now, when he's walking his opponents down, Umar putting pressure on his opponents, that's his world. I mean, that's when he feels the most confident in the octagon, and when he has his opponents retreating, fighting on the back foot, that's where he could make his opponents make some mistakes. So I think if we see a lot of situations that Merab likes to be active, moving around gingerly in the octagon, if Umar could take the fight to him, walking him down, and Merab has to retreat, fighting off the back foot in the octagon, that could go a long way. And I think Umar, if he could do that, should keep Merab thinking twice in the back of his head of what the challenger is going to do next. Umar could do some feint some jabs in there, and then that leads to the final game plan. If Umar can feint some, if he can feint some strikes in there, that opens the door for him landing some strikes, because Umar is good at letting his hands fly. He is a good, effective jab puncher, lands effective 1-2 combinations, and is a really good leg striker as well. Doing that could lead to Merab making some mistakes, getting frustrated in the octagon, and throwing him off his offensive game plan. So those are the following game plans that I have for Umar to follow the challenger. Now let's move on to the champion, Merab. Now, I think Merab's going to have to stuff some takedowns here. Obviously, he knows that Umar is going to be looking for some takedowns to take the fight to the ground. Merab's got to be prepared here on the defensive end, stuffing takedowns. Now, Umar will be shooting for a lot of takedowns, obviously. And when Umar fought Cody Sandhagen in the summertime in August, Cody Sandhagen, if you look at that 5-round fight, he did a great job stuffing a lot of takedowns in that fight. I mean, Umar won the fight by unanimous decision, obviously, but Cody Sandhagen did a good job at stuffing takedowns in the fight, not allowing Umar to completely deplete him on the ground, at least putting up a fight. Because if Merab wants to retain that title, he's going to have to stuff as many takedowns as he can. So that's going to be very pivotal, very important. Now next, Merab's going to have to play some mind games with Umar. Now, this goes back to what I was saying when Merab took the title from Sean O'Malley at UFC 306. He was in his mind. He's playing mind games. He just had the psychological advantage over Sean O'Malley, but it worked in his favor because he dominated him 4 out of 5 championship rounds, 5 rounds. I scored that fight a shutout. But if Merab could do the game plans, moving around with feints, doing jumping movements, and do that, and I'm not saying he will do it, but if you look at the mind games that he did play against Sean O'Malley, on the ground, he even gave Sean O'Malley a kiss on the cheek. That was the first kiss that I ever seen exchange, men or women, in a combat sports fight in my life last year. So I think if Merab can do that, play the mind games, and lastly, land the significant strikes against Umar, that could slow him down and break the challenger's confidence if he could get rolling with the strikes. So I think if he could do that, land the strikes, and then Merab bring the fight to Umar, not allowing the challenger to walk him down, that could possibly set up for Merab to possibly retain his bantamweight championship against Umar in the main event at UFC 311. But with that being said, I'm going to go with the challenger Umar to become the new bantamweight champion by defeating Merab. I think this fight's going to go to the decision. I think Umar is going to defeat Merab by decision to become the new bantamweight champion at UFC 311. Now, styles makes fights, and that's what you're getting, an interesting matchup between the champion Merab and the challenger Umar. But I think in combat sports, when you have a styles makes fight type of atmosphere, this could be a one-sided affair. And I think Umar is just a much better fighter and a bad matchup for Merab heading into this fight. And as good as Merab looked against Sean O'Malley, possibly having a shutout, winning 4 out of 5 rounds against Sean O'Malley, UFC 306, Sean O'Malley is only known for being a striker. He can't do both. He's not a striker and a grappler. Now you're heading into your first title defense against a very dangerous striker, Umar, very dangerous grappler, Umar, that's going to have his cousin Khabib by his side in his corner, that is one of the most dominant, most dangerous champions in UFC history, guiding him to this fight. You're going to see Umar throw off the champion, landing significant strikes, landing takedowns, frustrating Merab on the ground, gaining ground control, possibly having Merab shut down on the ground and not being able to do what he wants to do comfortably over the offensive side. So I just think styles makes fights, and I think Umar is a bad matchup, a bad draw for Merab to have his first bantamweight title defense. And I think Umar is going to comfortably win this fight by unanimous decision to take the bantamweight title from Merab in the co-main event of UFC 311. But that is my Merab versus Umar fight prediction for the co-main event slot of UFC 311.